My name is Beatrice May Banda. I'm a PhD student at Texila American University. I'm going to present on significance of sleep hygiene in public health. In summary, as we all know, public health is the science of protecting people, the public, and also enhancing the life of people through educating them, doing research, and also policy making so that we can prevent disease and injuries. So public health concerns, they enhance a better life and the quality to life because people become more aware about the issues concerning public health. Sleep hygiene is the topic that we are going to discuss now, that I'm going to present on, and it must be well understood because it contributes massively to public health. So people need to have recommended sleep amount in order to stay healthy. So the purpose of this article in relation to issues in the community that are happening on day to day. So I conducted a literature review on published articles which were published in the last 10 years. And in summary, I can say that a lack of sleep hygiene leads to mood disorders. People experience different emotions and also alterations in performance, both at work or at school, and also their alertness is affected. So we need to support all the guidelines pertaining to sleep hygiene and find solutions to correct some of the bad practices that are happening in our community, in our households, in order to address certain public health calamities. So in defining sleep hygiene, it comprises of different habits and practices. And these habits and practices, they will lead to a good restful sleep and alertness during the day. That comes from National Sleep Foundation. So the factors that contribute to good sleep hygiene are the behaviors that we possess as human beings, the lifestyles that we adopt, and the surroundings that we live in. All these put together, they will determine the quality of sleep that anybody is going to have. Sleep hygiene is assumed to lead to good sleep health. So according to BICE, sleep hygiene is a state where one satisfies bodily requirements of awakings, sleep duration and times, and also sleepiness, because sleep contributes to overall world health. So introducing the topic, sleep hygiene achieves better quality of life and rest, and as we are all aware, insomnia is a common experience that most people undergo, and it should be addressed by having regular sleep patterns. So people everywhere around the world, they should be able to plan for rest during the day or during the night time, because if you lack sleep, you'll find that you become stressed during the day, and the lack of sleep, it will lead to people experiencing fatigue. They'll become depressed, they'll become moody. They can also have altered mental patterns. They can be irritable, and also they can experience social impairments. When I talk about social impairments, you know, we live in a world where you interact with people, and even at the workplace, or it's academic, even in the home, if you haven't had a good sleep and you are fatigued and you are irritable, you find that even the social interaction that you are going to have with other human beings or your family is going to be very impeded upon, because you become very angry at any time, or you may not even understand what they are talking about because you don't pay them attention. So to avoid all these issues that come as a result of altered sleep patterns, we need to avoid stimulants before we go to bed, and these include consumption of alcoholic substances and also consumption of caffeine and nicotine containing substances, you know. so that we can have a peaceful sleep. We also need to adopt consistent bedtimes by changing the lifestyles that we adopt in our day-to-day life. We should be able to exercise regularly, eat healthy, and also expose ourselves, the bodies, to sunlight so that we can also have some vitamin D into our bodies, and also enable our rooms where we sleep. We're supposed to have comfortable bedrooms, comfortable pillows, comfortable beddings, comfortable bed for you to appreciate the goodness of a good sleep pattern. So, as I already explained, this is just a literature review on selected articles which were published in the last 10 years, and they were sourced from Google Scholar Drive. So from these articles, what I read is that sleep hygiene is a major component of public health. The other word that is used for sleep hygiene is also called sleep health. They mean the same and they can be defined in the same way, but most of the times we rarely use them. Somebody will just tell you, I had insomnia or I overslept, but the word sleep hygiene doesn't come out, or sleep health doesn't even come out. So this is a word that we need to understand very well. So public health requires factors that are going to influence good sleep hygiene, like the way we adapt to certain circumstances or situations, and the way we perform, and also issues pertaining to our wellness, our health, or if we have got any illness, we are supposed to address that so that we are able to sleep properly. Most of the times when patients walk into the hospital, we find that clinicians may not pay attention to the issues of sleep hygiene. If a patient comes in with headache, or maybe they are having general malaise, whichever symptom they may experience, the clinician will be first to do investigations by drawing blood, take to the laboratory, do investigations, etc. Most of the times, as clinicians, I think we fail to understand that most issues that are being experienced today by people in our community is because of insomnia, a lack of sleep, or oversleeping. According to Irish and others, people have got different sleep needs, and their rest needs to be handled differently. So failure for one to be alert may lead to a lot of things, which can be loss of interest in day-to-day activities of living. So according to Vance Stratton, insomnia is a major public health challenge today because it impacts the quality of life, and failure to sleep leads to concentration issues. It also leads to high morbidity and mortality rates, and these are a cost on life. For example, if somebody hasn't had enough sleep in the night, they'll be driving on the highway, and after that minimal sleep, it can lead to a fatal accident or even death. And once you have this kind of an accident, you find that this is a cost which comes to an individual in terms of repairing the vehicle, or the family in terms of burial costs, or maybe to the nation in terms of the loss of a developmental manpower. So insomnia really contributes to a lot of public health problems, especially in the US, United States. It is reported by Edition in 2013 that approximately 6 to 10% of the adult population are in this category of people who don't sleep adequately. People, they sleep less than 24 hours due to demand of work and school. In the developed world, or particularly maybe we may have similar situations in Africa, where the cost of living, I think, across the globe has gone high. So people wake up late, they work late, and then they also sleep late due to the demand of work and also school. A good example is us scholars. We are here with Texila American University. doing distance study, but maybe we are working during the day and we have to find extra time to study and make sure that our assignments are submitted on time, and we do the research and everything that is required as scholarly requirement. So you find that you get high levels of distress, disturbance of mood, confusion, fatigue, and failure to eat normally, because you are interfering with the individual functioning of the body. Today in the United States, the government has budgeted an estimated amount of $30 to $107 billion on sleep disorders. You can imagine the impact that a lack of sleep hygiene causes. So insomnia is one that has impacted on the economic status of any nation, even the households, because it reduces the productivity rates of people as they have a lowered concentration when assigned work. Then in the American Psychiatric Association, there are a lot of tools that have been developed, I think worldwide, but particularly to APA, there is a diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, and this manual is for the purpose of making a diagnosis and classifying sleep abnormalities. The manual will help to identify specific symptoms that suggest that somebody did not have good sleep in the night, or maybe they have a probability of having mental illness. This helps the clinicians to be able to identify the type of approach they are going to give to address the issue. It can be curative, it can be a pharmacological approach or non-pharmacological approach. And in non-pharmacological approach, we talk about behavioral change in people or relaxational therapies that can be accorded to people with altered sleep patterns, because they need to adjust the way they are appreciating their sleep patterns. Also, in the hospitals, there is need to include sleep units. Some patients may not literally need medication for them to be able to recuperate from other conditions that they are suffering from. All they need is just a good sleep, and then they are discharged to go home. So in the articles that I read, there is one article by Texila and others, 2017, they did a random controlled trials in social learning preventive interventions program to assess if sleep, so a random controlled trial in social learning preventive intervention program was meant to assess if sleep smart model will promote health sleep behaviors. So there was a two group of people that were chosen, and the study revealed that the group that spent more time in bed experienced an improvement in their emotional control and psychological well-being, whereas the group that did not have sufficient sleep had impaired mood disorders and also altered physiological well-being. So the group that had enough sleep, they slept for about 8 to 10 hours, and they had their grades in school improved, unlike the other group. This improved the program in sleep smart intervention, and it shows that a good sleep pattern is going to improve your work productivity and also your academic output. In another article by Wells and Vogue, it's a systematic review where they wanted to find that there is a danger in the public as people with a lack of sleep tend to have lower performance and productivity. Sometimes you find that people drive recklessly, and maybe you are driving on the road. You wonder, how come this person is driving like that, but they've got a license to drive on these roads? You may not understand that such people may not have had adequate sleep, or they are abusing drugs and substances. This leads to increased cases of morbidities and mortalities, impacting on the nation's economical factors. So the major risk of illnesses may come as a result of a lack of sleep hygiene, such as hypertension and depression. And most of the times, like today, adolescents, they experience a lot of psychological and physiological alterations because they lack adequate sleep. According to TOL2 2013, an adolescent must sleep at least on average 9 to 10 hours. Today in South Korea, children in the school, they spend about 16 hours at study, and 18 hours is left for other extra school curriculum activities. So this leads to problems in academic performance and issues in behavior, lowered cognitive capabilities, and accumulation of fatigue comes as a result of the sleep that they are not having in good amounts. So with body changes, we know that these adolescents, they undergo puberty and the like. So they become very irritable and they start experiencing a lowered quality of life. So they may react to people on the streets in the community differently, and they become aggressive even to people surrounding them. Another RCT was done by Baum in 2014. This study, it showed the effects of lack of good sleep and mood in adolescents. Adolescents were deprived from sleep for 3 weeks, allowed 6.5 hours of sleep, and their mood was observed. The other group had 10 hours of sleep for 5 nights. Adolescents and parents submitted self-reports using a questionnaire about their mood changes. So the results revealed that the adolescents who had less sleep became more tired, they became less active, they became confused, they became hostile, irritable, and angry to people around them. And anxious, they become tense, poor control over their emotions. This can lead to a lot of conditions like depression, mental disorders, and hypertension. Secondly, they may not be alert in public, but they may cause accidents. If they are riding bicycles or roller skates, they may even bump into people, causing injuries. And we know that public health is concerned about disease prevention and prevention of injuries. So today, one of the public health concerns is obesity. And according to Chaput and Dutil 2016, weight control can also be regulated by sleep patterns. Mentions in this article, Chaput and Dutil, they mentioned to say that these sleep patterns, if somebody is going to wake up, is going to stay awake up to midnight, 01, 02 after midnight. Even adolescents, you find that they are busy with games, playing games, watching cartoons, and everything like that. Most of the times you find that as people are doing that activity, they are going to be taking a huge amount of food. They are going to be having juice, they are going to be having bread, making tea, having a lot of sugary stuff, and enjoying doing all the activities that they are doing. But people must consider that it is not a waste of time to sleep, but it may be a good treatment of obesity because you avoid some of these habits that lead to obesity. So in discussing this, I'm going to say sleep hygiene contributes massively to public health. It prevents accidents and increases alertness, improves academic performance, enables emotional control, and prevents depression. Therefore, I have analyzed this issue, especially in my country here in Zambia. I have checked everywhere. I'm not seeing a policy that addresses issues to do with sleep hygiene. But the developed world, I think this is one of the priority areas because they have identified that sleep hygiene is very important to prevent some of the public health calamities that we experience in the world today. And according to the World Health Organization, we've got the developmental goals that we are supposed to achieve. The SDG 3.5. If we are going to have a good sleep hygiene, we'll be able to strengthen the prevention and treatment of substance abuse, including narcotic drug abuse and harmful use of alcohol. And SDG 3.6, by 2020, we need to have the number of global deaths and injuries from road traffic accidents. And SDG 3D, we need to strengthen the capacity of all countries, in particularly developing countries, for early warning, risk reduction, and management of national and global health risks. What are the recommendations? I'm recommending that hospitals, they need to initiate sleep wards for treatment of different conditions that are caused from a lack of sleep hygiene. Sometimes even the medication that we give to patients, they'll cause them not to sleep. For example, if we talk about Lasix, furosemide, a patient will always be going to the toilet. But if they are given an environment where they are able to rest, especially hypertensive patients, you find that they'll be able to have a normal blood pressure reading in no time. So we must also avoid admitting stressed patients or hypertensive clients in medical wards, because medical wards are full of patients with different conditions. One will be crying with headache, different conditions where it is not quiet, it is not peaceful. So you find that patients with hypertension, they really require a quiet environment. Can we also avail the public with information about issues surrounding with restricted sleep patterns so that they are aware? If people are not aware about issues of sleep hygiene, they may not understand that the practices or the lifestyles they have adopted are very harmful to their health. There is also need for public health campaigns and educational talks on media, meetings, and conferences. There is need for creation of support groups and discussion meetings in the communities and also in the hospital environment. And the government, just a recommendation, should be able to fund and support psychotherapy efforts and develop training curriculums, especially for public health or even in nursing curriculum, so that people may understand the issues pertaining to sleep hygiene and they'll be able to adequately address the same. In conclusion, sleep is very vital for physiological and psychological wellness and health. Sleep requirements may differ between people, although they must understand that different recommendations are outlined in national policies and research findings. It is important that we develop these policies because these are the guidelines that are going to guide people on the ground, clinicians in the hospitals, to be able to address adequately the conditions that patients come with into our hospitals. And we need to know, and in conclusion, that there are a lot of factors that will lead to altered sleep patterns, which are the way we take our naps. Are we able to take nap times during the day? Sometimes these are called power naps. Or are we able to avoid caffeine and nicotine consumption? Or are we able to plan how we take shift work to make extra income towards satisfying our families? Are we able to consistently do physical exercises? Are we able to address all these issues so that we are able to ensure that people improve the quality of sleep, and in the end, they are going to improve the economic status of every household. So adequate sleep enables people to have a fulfilled and happy, relaxed life. In other words, it improves the quality of life of everybody, but also contributes to the economic status of every nation. So after that conclusion, these are my references. And thank you so much, Texila e-conference, for according me this opportunity to share this information. Thank you.
We'll go for the next voting session for Ms.Beatrice May Banda for the presentation on topic of significance of sleep hygiene in public health. Dear participant, please vote for Ms. Beatrice. Okay, thank you so much. Here we end the poll.